Wouldn't you design? Do you design?
Tasarlıyor musunuz?
Was it a deal? Agree?
Anlaşmak.
Can they make jewelry soon? Can they make jewelry soon?
Yakında kuyumculuk yapabilirler mi?
I won't get it in a minute. Don't get it after a minute.
Bir dakika sonra elde etme.
Our grandmother was a waitress. Our grandmother's waitress.
Annemiz garsonu.
Are we invited? Are we invited?
Davetli miyiz?
We are rising. We are rising.
Yükseliyoruz.
Shouldn't we be athletes every day? Shouldn't you be training every day?
Her gün atletmeniz gerekmez mi?
It wasn't like. It wasn't like.
Gibi değildi.
Our brothers were preachers. Our brothers were preachers.
Kardeşlerimiz vaizdi.
Is our daughter a butler? Is our daughter a butler?
Kızımız uşak mı?
Can't visit often? Can't visit often?
Sık sık ziyaret edemez mi?
Didn't they lose 2 afternoons? Didn't they lose after 2 births?
2 doğumdan sonra kaybetmediler mi?
I can relate after one night. I can relate after one night.
Bir gece sonra ilişki kurabilirim.
Her mother-in-law was a pianist. Her mother-in-law was a pianist.
Kayınvalidesi piyanistti.
Shouldn't be gardening for 10 years. Shouldn't be gardening for 10 years.
10 yıl bahçıvanlık yapmamalı.
Did it develop at noon? Did it develop at noon?
Öğlen mi gelişti?
Was his stepson the postman? Carrie stepson postman?
Üvey oğlu postacı taşımak.
Are you a cop soon? Soon the police wrong?
Yakında polis yanlış mı?
Now we have to hope. Now we have to hope.
Artık umutlanmalıyız.
Congressman could be 2 more mornings later. Congressman 2 more mornings can be passed.
Kongre üyesi 2 sabah daha geçilebilir.
May come from time to time. May come from time to time.
Ara sıra gelebilir.
Was he the night watchman next year? Next year night watchman Bo?
Seneye gece bekçisi yay.
Their mother is a barista. Their mother is a barista.
Anneleri baristadır.
Were his children soldiers? Children enter soldiers?
Çocukları asker enter.
Was his half-brother a baker? Step-brother baker moving?
Üvey kardeş fırıncı hareket ediyor.
Do I impose 2 weeks? Do I impose 2 weeks?
2 hafta empoze ediyor muyum?
Is her uncle an esthetician? Is her uncle an esthetician?
Amcası estetisyen mi?
Can we normally be a mechanic? Can we be a visual mechanic?
Görsel olarak tamirci olabilir miyiz?
It cannot burn. Fireproof.
Yanmaz.
Wasn't he listening? Don't you listen?
Dinlemiyor musun?
Your grandson was a harvester. Your grandson was a harvester.
Torununuz biçer döverdi.
Did you fall? Did you fall?
Düştün mü?
Is my uncle a boxer? Is my uncle a boxer?
Amcam boksör mü?
Did they not exercise? Did they not exercise?
Egzersiz yapmıyorlar mı?
I shouldn't be headhunting after 4 nights. I shouldn't be headhunting after 4 nights.
4 gece sonra kafa avcısı yapmamalıyım.
The occasional travel agency is not. The occasional travel agency is not.
Ara sıra seyahat acentesi değildir.
Was your uncle a manager? Uncle executive secretary?
Amcan yönetici sekreterliği.
We can finish later. We can finish later.
Daha sonra bitirebiliriz.
I can't save often. I can't save often.
Sık kaydedemiyorum.
You can't do chemistry now. You are now a chemistry scan.
Şimdi kimya taramasısın.
Her mother-in-law is a hydrologist. Her mother-in-law is a hydrologist.
Kayınvalidesi hidrologdur.
Isn't he a civil engineer in 5 minutes? Isn't he a civil engineer in 5 minutes?
5 dakika sonra inşaat mühendisi değil mi?
After 2 weeks we may not be long sailors. After 2 weeks we may not be long sailors.
2 hafta sonra uzun denizci olamayabiliriz.
Were you invisible in the twilight? Are you hidden in the twilight?
Alacakaranlıkta gizlin mi?
It can kill. It can kill.
Öldürebilir.
You should not serve after 1 minute. You should not serve after 1 minute.
1 dakika sonra servis yapmamalısınız.
His stepson was a sculptor. His stepson was a sculptor.
Üvey oğlu heykeltıraştı.
Didn't they lose 2 afternoons? Didn't they lose after 2 births?
2 doğumdan sonra kaybetmediler mi?
We can enter. We can own.
Sahiplenebiliriz.
I can paint yearly. I can paint yearly.
Yıllık resim yapabilirim.
Is my stepbrother an educator? Is my stepbrother an educator?
Üvey kardeşim eğitimci mi?
Could you improve 1 night earlier? Can you evolve for 1 night?
1 gece boyunca gelişebilir misiniz?
4 weeks from the police, right? 4 weeks from the police, right?
4 hafta sonra polis değil mi?
His nephew is an auditor. His niece is a protector.
Yeğeni koruyucudur.
Wouldn't he clown every day? Don't they clown every day?
Her gün palyaço yapmazlar mı?
Am I never an illusionist? Am I never an illusionist?
Ben asla illüzyonist değil miyim?
Was your stepmother a choreographer? Is your stepmother a choreographer?
Üvey annen koreograf mı?
Are their daughters salespeople? Are their daughters salespeople?
Kızları pazarlamacı mı?
It was not borrowed. Not accepted.
Kabul edilmedi.
Will I not be cold at night? Will I not be cold at night?
Geceleri üşümeyecek miyim?
You're going to be a weekly athlete. You're going to be a weekly athlete.
Haftalık atlet yapacaksın.
You can take. Download.
İndir.
Haven't I been trading for 10 years? Haven't I been trading for 10 years?
10 yıl ticaret yapmıyor muyum?
It wasn't Potter 3 the previous morning. It wasn't Potter 3 the previous morning.
Önceki sabah çömlekçi 3 değildi.
Then you can't manage. Then you can't manage.
O zaman yönetemezsin.
Are you getting close to the weekly? Are you coming weekly?
Haftalık geliyorsunuz.
Wasn't he the manager then? Then the admin is not offensive?
Daha sonra yönetici saldırgan değil mi?
Your son is an esthetician. Your son is an esthetician.
Oğlunuz estetisyen.
Don't you row at night? Don't you row at night?
Geceleri kürek çekmez misin?
Can I evaluate it every month? Can I evaluate it every month?
Her ay değerlendirebilir miyim?
We don't do weekly comparisons. We don't do weekly comparisons.
Haftalık karşılaştırma yapmıyoruz.
He wasn't a speaker back then. He wasn't a speaker back then.
O zamanlar spiker değildi.
Is her nephew a columnist? Is her nephew a columnist?
Yeğeni köşe yazarı mı?
Can't they be soldiers often? Can't they be soldiers often?
Sık sık asker olamazlar mı?
Are we ecologists a century from now? Are we ecologists a century from now?
Bir asır sonra ekolojist miyiz?
Was her mother a painter? Is her mother a painter?
Annesi ressam mı?
We are contacting you. We are communicating.
İletişim geçiyoruz.
Our parents are garbage collectors. Our parents are garbage collectors.
Ebeveynlerimiz çöp toplayıcıdır.
I should not create. I should not create.
Yaratmamalıyım.
Were you a lecturer then? Member of education then?
Eğitim öğretimin üyesi o zaman.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Fayda etmiyor.
Doesn't it hurt? Doesn't it hurt?
Yaralamıyor mu?
My children are mediators. My children are mediators.
Çocuklarım arabulucu.
Wouldn't it connect? Won't it connect?
Bağlanmaz mı?
Then it could be a baker. Then it could be a baker.
O zaman fırıncı olabilir.
You can carry. You are carrying.
Taşımaksın.
Was her husband a philosopher? Is her husband philosophers?
Kocası filozoflar mı?
The next day I would go to the grocery store. The next day I would go to the grocery store.
Bir gün sonra bakkaliyeye giderdim.
Was my grandfather a guard? Does my grandfather keep guard?
Dedem gardiyan devam mı ediyor?
Will they finish in 4 years? Will they finish in 4 years?
4 yıl sonra mı bitirecekler?
Was his friend a paramedic? His friend is the Ministry of Health prison?
Arkadaşı Sağlık Bakanlığı hapishanesi.
Shouldn't sing. Shouldn't sing.
Şarkı söylememeli.
I shouldn't be headhunting after 4 nights. I shouldn't be headhunting after 4 nights.
4 gece sonra kafa avcısı yapmamalıyım.
His brother was an accountant. His brother was accounting.
Erkek kardeşici muhasebeydi.
Don't we believe? Don't we believe?
İnanmaz mıyız?
Did you say noon? Did you say noon?
Öğlen mi dedin?
Then we are not stewardess. Then we won't be stewardess.
O zaman hostes olmayacağız.
Was flying. Was flying.
Uçuyordu.
In 3 nights, there will be no vice president. In 3 nights, there will be no vice president.
3 gece sonra başkan yardımcısı olmayacak.
He could not immediately become a statistician. Not immediately become a statistician.
Hemen istatistikçi olamaz.
You should give. You should give.
Vermelisin.
Wasn't it a check? International, not check.
Çek değil, uluslararası.
Can you win in the night time? Can you win in the night time?
Gece vakti kazanabilir misin?
He yawned. He yawned.
Esnedi.
Won't you include it in the twilight? Won't you include it in the twilight?
Alacakaranlıkta içermeyecek misin?
Can't they assume? Can't they assume?
Varsayamazlar mı?
Sometimes it didn't help. Sometimes it didn't help.
Bazen fayda sağlamadı.
Will they not insist? Those who do not insist.
Israr etmeyenler mi?
Should it break? Should it break?
Kırmalı mı?
He shouldn't be dealing with her at noon. He shouldn't be concerned when it's noon.
Öğle vakti geldiğinde ilgilenmemeli.
I produce. I produce.
Ben üretiyorum.
Your wife owns the house. Your wife owns the house.
Karınız ev sahibi.
Should it be chosen? Should it be chosen?
Seçilmeli mi?
Was her stepfather a fashion designer? Carry a stepdad fashion protector?
Üvey babası moda koruyucusu taşımak.
Their cousins are journeymen. Their cousins are journeymen.
Kuzenleri kalfadır.
Can you send it after 3 in the morning? Can you send it after 3 in the morning?
Sabah 3'ü sonra gönderebilir misin?
Can I confirm often? Can I confirm often?
Sık sık onaylayabilir miyim?
Shouldn't she? Shouldn't she?
Giymemeli mi?
Shouldn't he attend every 2 weeks? Shouldn't he attend every 2 weeks?
2 haftada bir katılmamalı mı?
Soon there was no barber. Was not close.
Yakın berber olmadı.
Inspector in 5 hours? Protective after 5 hours?
5 saat sonra koruyucu mu?
Can you appear? Can you appear?
Görünebilir misin?
Is our sister a therapist? Is our sister a therapist?
Ablamız terapist mi?
Don't I show up late at 3 in the morning? Do I pass at 3 in the morning?
Sabahın 3'ünde geçiyoruz muyum?
He often cooked. He often cooked.
Sık sık yemek pişirirdi.
Your half-brother Dean? Your half-brother Dean?
Üvey kardeşin değil mi?
Won't he be a congressman by sunset? Won't he be a congressman at the end of the day?
Gün bitiminde kongre üyesi olmayacak mı?
You may not be able to analyze it right away. You may not be able to analyze it right away.
Hemen analiz edemeyebilirsin.
In the afternoon we must be the host. We have to be homeowners after birth.
Doğumdan sonra ev sahibi olmalıyız.
You dance often. You dance often.
Sık sık dans ediyorsun.
Couldn't he touch it? Can't touch?
Dokunamaz.
Was your neighbor a sailor? Is your neighbor sailors?
Komşunuz denizciler mi?
Is her sister a beekeeper? Is her sister a beekeeper?
Ablası arıcı mı?
Won't it take off at dawn? Won't it take off at dawn?
Şafakta çıkarmayacak mı?
I was a rider back then. I was riding back then.
Ben o zamanlar biniyordum.
Did not stay often. Did not stay often.
Sık kalamadı.
Wasn't it a Czech? International not Czech.
Çek değil uluslararası.
Then they get married at 4 a.m. Then they get married at 4 a.m.
Daha sonra sabah 4'te evlenirler.
Wouldn't it normally fit? Basically it doesn't fit.
Temel olarak uymaz mı?
Can't be a doctor often? Can't be a doctor often?
Sık sık doktor olamaz mı?
You remember 2 weeks. You remember 2 weeks.
2 haftayı hatırlarsın.
You don't get off the ship after one night. You don't get off the ship after one night.
Bir gece sonra gemiden inmezsin.
We couldn't come 2 days ago. We couldn't come 2 days ago.
2 gün önce gelemedik.
I can use it every day. I can use it every day.
Her gün faydalanabilirim.
His brother-in-law is an assistant. His brother-in-law is an assistant.
Kayınbiraderi asistandır.
Should it be the bellhop of the decade? Should it be the bellhop of the decade?
10 yılın bel boyu olmalı mı?
I wouldn't organize. I wouldn't organize.
Organize etmezdim.
Can handle 2 weeks. Can handle 2 weeks.
2 hafta idare edebilir.
Our colleague was a chemist. Our colleague was a chemist.
Meslektaşımız kimyagerdi.
His sister was an analyst. Sister analyst.
Kız kardeşi analistti.
His nephew was a postman. His nephew was a postman.
Yeğeni postacıydı.
Could he sell? Jean to sell.
Satabilecekken.
His half-brother was a scavenger. His half-brother was a scavenger.
Üvey kardeşi çöpçüydü.
Your friend is a jeweler. Your friend is a jeweler.
Arkadaşın kuyumcu.
I disagree. I structure.
Ben yapısı.
Don't you reduce? Don't you reduce?
Azaltmıyor musun?
Will it finish? Will it finish?
Bitirecek mi?
Usually blogger? Usually blogger?
Genellikle blogcu.
Will he not object then? Will he not object then?
O zaman itiraz etmeyecek mi?
Shouldn't you be paired after a day? Shouldn't it be a day later?
Bir gün sonra olması gerekmez mi?
Was my friend a race car driver? Was my friend a race car driver?
Arkadaşım yarış arabası sürücüsü müydü?
They won't be out soon. They don't come close.
Yakın çıkarmazlar.
Didn't he go to jail often? Didn't he go to jail often?
Sık sık hapse girmedi mi?
Are his half-brothers artists? Are stepbrothers artists?
Üvey erkek kardeşler sanatçı mı?
They were not soldiers every week. They were not soldiers every week.
Her hafta asker değillerdi.
Shouldn't it stop 10 years? Shouldn't it stop 10 years?
10 yılı durdurmamalı mı?
Did he mention last year? Did we talk about past lives?
Geçen yaşamları konuştuk mu?
Your brother-in-law was a physiologist. Your brother-in-law was a physiologist.
Kayınbiraderiniz fizyologdu.
It was not borrowed. Not accepted.
Kabul edilmedi.
You can give a job. You can do business.
İş yapabilirsin.
Wouldn't you be a civil engineer in 2 days? Can't you go to a civil engineer in 2 days?
2 gün sonra inşaat mühendisi gitmeniz olmaz mı?
Wouldn't we be astronauts in 5 centuries? Wouldn't it be possible to go astronaut after 5 centuries?
5 asır sonra astronot gitmek olmaz mı?
Can't I think? Can't I think?
Düşünemez miyim?
Should we match? Should we match?
Eşleşmeli miyiz?
Are their grandparents ambassadors? Are their grandparents ambassadors?
Büyükanne ve büyükbabaları büyükelçi mi?
Will he look? Will he look?
Bakacak mı?
Should do. Should be.
Olmalı.
His cousins are cleaners. His cousins are cleaners.
Kuzenleri temizlikçidir.
May come from time to time. May come from time to time.
Ara sıra gelebilir.
Are my cousins stockbrokers? Are my cousins stockbrokers?
Kuzenlerim borsacı mı?
They are night watchmen at dusk. They are night watchmen at dusk.
Alacakaranlıkta gece bekçileridir.
Should not be retired at dusk. Should not be retired at dusk.
Alacakaranlıkta emekli edilmemeli.
Did I reconcile then? Did I reconcile then?
Barıştım mı o zaman?
They were economists at 5 the night before. They were economists at 5 the night before.
Önceki gece 5'te ekonomistlerdi.
Will I ask after 4 nights? Will I ask after 4 nights?
4 gece sonra soracak mıyım?
She will be an esthetician every year. She will be an esthetician every year.
Her yıl estetisyenlik yapacak.
His half-sister is the referee. His half-sister is the referee.
Üvey kız kardeşi hakemdir.
Your children are lawyers. Your children are lawyers.
Çocuklarınız avukat.
Soon there was no barber. Was not close.
Yakın berber olmadı.
Did they always come back? Did they always come back?
Her zaman geri dönerler mi?
You can become a sociologist right away. You can become a sociologist right away.
Hemen sosyolog olabilirsiniz.
My neighbor was a landscape architect. My neighbor was a landscape architect.
Komşum peyzaj mimarıydı.
Should I return now? Should I return now?
Şimdi dönmeli miyim?
Our husband is a urologist. Our husband is a urologist.
Kocamız ürolog.
Does he forget every month? Doesn't he forget everything?
Her şeyi unutmuyor mu?
Would they destroy? Do they destroy?
Yok ederler mi?
Developer every month, right? Isn't everything developer?
Her şey geliştirici değil mi?
You will immediately become the second man. You will immediately become the second man.
Hemen ikinci adam olursun.